Welcome back, folks, to lesson 3. Today our lesson is on intervals, and in fact I go as far as to say that this is such an important lesson today that the understanding of music is the understanding of intervals. Without intervals we don't have a chord, we don't have a melody, we don't have music. So what is an interval? An interval, as we've got on our screen here, is an interval is defined as the distance in pitch between any two notes. For example, on the guitar, F to G is a tone or 2 frets. Okay, we'll talk about the keyboard in just a moment. In any major key, we have a set given sequence of intervals of tones and semitones. So I always like to start with explaining the system of tones and semitones. Now there'll be those of you out there that obviously know this, but I've written out the C major scale, very basic scale of course, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So the distance between C and D is a T, a tone, which is 2 frets on the guitar. D to E is a tone. E to F is an ST, a semitone, which is 1 fret on the guitar. F to G is a tone, G to A is a tone, A to B is a tone, and B to C is a semitone. So here's the deal. All major scales have this same order or sequence of tones and semitones. That's the construction of any major scale. So it's very important to understand, of course, when we come back to understanding more about our scale chords that we've been looking at. Okay, so on the keyboard, of course, there's no black key between E and F and B and C, which is why you have groups of 3 and 2 black keys on the keyboard. Okay, you keyboard players would know that. So what's going to happen then is if we go back to constructing our chords from last week, we're looking at our very first chord, which is G major 7. I hope you managed to see that. It's not quite magic, but anyway, it's close. G to B is a major third. Why? Because B is the 3rd note in the scale. Each note in the scale is a number, is a degree. They say there are 8 degrees in a scale. In fact, the distance between the 2 G notes at the beginning and the end is called an octave, and an octave is 8 notes through the musical alphabet. I've got an octagon, I've got 8 sides, I've got an octopus with 8 tentacles, and I've got an octave with 8 notes. So, okay, a third then is relating to the fact that B is the 3rd note in the G scale. So G to B is a 3rd, G to D is a 5th. Why? Because in the G major scale we're going up 5 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The distance between G and D is a 5th, or what we say is a perfect 5th. We have a perfect 5th and a perfect 4th. Okay, and then the last note in the G major 7th chord is an F sharp. You'll find that is the 7th note of the major scale, which is why it's a major 7th chord. Let's count along the scale then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 notes in the scale. In the scale to the octave, and F sharp is the 7th note. So the distance then, folks, in pitch between G and F sharp, the interval is a major 7th. If, for example, if I flatten that to an F, that would be a flattened 7th, which would give me a G, just a plain G7 chord, for those of you that are sort of thinking ahead. Okay, let's look at the next chord, which is A minor 7. Okay, now to understand this next chord, I now have to think about the A major scale. So we now need to establish the fact that we are just for a moment thinking about the notes in the A major scale, which is A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. So we've got 3 sharps to keep in our head, the F, the C and the G. So in the A major scale, A, B, C sharp is the 3rd note. We flattened that to C. Now here's a very important principle, the difference between a major and a minor key, a major or minor chord, or a major or minor scale or arpeggio, anything. The difference between major and minor is that the major 3rd is flattened a semitone. So in this case, in the A major scale, the C sharp has been flattened to C to create the minor chord or the minor sound. Okay, so A to C is a minor 3rd, that interval. A to E, the E note is the 5th note in the A scale, A, B, C sharp, D, E. A to E is a perfect 5th in the A major scale. The seventh note is A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp. So G sharp is the seventh note in the major scale of A. If we flatten G sharp, folks, we get a G. So what I've got there is what we call a flattened or minor seventh between the A and the G. Hence, we end up with a minor seventh chord. We're not just talking about an A minor seventh or a G major seventh. We're talking about any type of major seventh or minor seventh chord. These intervals remain constant. So once again, to recap on them, minor seven, A minor seven, A to C is a minor third, A to E is a fifth, and A to G is a minor seven. B minor seven. Okay, in the B scale, unfortunately, I've got to think about 5 sharps here, guys. I've got F, C, G, D, and A, but you'll see that pretty much a lot of these intervals are flattened. B to D is a minor third because in the B major scale, B to D sharp, which is the third note, is flattened to D. So let's look at that. B, C sharp, D sharp is flattened to D. The distance between B and D is a minor third. B to F sharp is a perfect fifth. So we retain the sharp there because F sharp is the fifth note in the B major scale. It's a perfect fifth. And then the seventh note of the B major scale is A sharp. Once again, that 5. So let's just recapitulate what's going on here. In any given major key, isn't it interesting? I've got 2 major chords or major seventh chords. I've got 1 dominant seventh chord and the rest are minors. A minor 7, B minor 7, E minor 7, and F sharp minor 7, flat 5. So if you think there's a lot of minor chords out there and you find yourself playing and writing songs with lots of minor chords, that's because there are more minor chords than major chords in any key, major or minor. In a major key, there are actually 4 minor chords, one of them being a minor 7, flat 5, and finally 2 major chords and only one dominant seventh chord. So basically, we've looked today at it's not easy trying to put all this into a quick lesson, but you can see that if you go back over this, that most normal chords are constructed with the first, the third, the fifth, and the seventh. Now, what's important? The 2 most important chordal tones in any chord are the third and the seventh. Why? Because they define the chord. The third always tells me whether the chord's going to be major or minor. And given the third, the seventh tells me whether it's going to be major seventh, minor seventh, or dominant seventh. Okay, we also have the half diminished, but that has, of course, a flattened fifth. I always love to explain to people why guitarists often don't have any money. So what's the difference between a lead guitarist and a large pepperoni? Well, the large pepperoni can feed a family of 4. Thanks for listening.